All right, now that I've given you all vertigo, and I found a good spot where I'm not blinded in the sunlight, it's nice and shady. Hi, welcome back. So I wanted to be quick this time with a recap. I want to see how quickly we can do this. The party got back to the village of Charledraws. They brought their loot, did the math for it. We got XP. Everybody got a level up. Some of us got really close to another level up. And we didn't really unlock too many cool new abilities or anything super fancy like that. But the party went into the dungeon at this point. Upon entering, we haphazardly assaulted a group of goblins who we destroyed. The party continued exploring through the dungeonous maze complex here before running into a couple of interesting rooms. Most importantly, we found a strange magical fountain that was inhabited by a benevolent water siren. We kind of were a little ambiguous about what kind of watery creature we got here, but the party were able to continue exploring through a few more rooms before fighting their duplicates in an evil mirror. We almost didn't make it out of that one alive, but luckily returned to the water fountain, drank some of the healing water, and now the party, after having spoken with the strange water siren, I guess learned a bit more about this place, and there's sort of a move to go kill whatever's at the bottom, now that the party know that there's some kind of creepy creature at the bottom. So why don't you and I, you, the viewer, go down to my creepy bottom, okay, don't read into that. Go down to the basement, which is a creepy, anyway, okay, let's go, come on, let's go. We're back here in the basement and ready to rock. I feel like we can jump right into this. Well, actually, I say that and immediately regret that that's not the case. I'm gonna meet you at the table so we can get back into the random encounter that we left off on, but I also gotta go to my rotator thingy and show you something cool I got. So, I got a new dice tower, and this is actually looks kind of cool on the little spinny thing. It came with this dice set. I'm not a huge fan of it, but whatever. You know, we'll have it join the honorary crew for this episode. And yeah, let's try a practice roll, shall we? The main reason why I got it is because old Reliable over here is always shooting them out at me. So I got this thinking maybe, you know, look at that. The little security gate here is doing a good job. So, you know, got it off of the old Amazon, and at this point, I'm ready to try it out. So let's get crunching. Let's go. Okay, so in the last episode, we ended off with our party in the magic fountain area over here, and we were just about to head into this room right here when we got a random encounter at the top of the second hour. So we got to start off by checking our random encounter table and see what it is that we got. Now, there's a part of me that wonders, again, I said before I was just going to do randos, but there's a part of me that wonders if maybe, just maybe, we should create a new table for the cultists and some of the plant monsters that we might see. But as soon as I start thinking about that, I'm like, well, maybe we can hold off on that until we get to a lower level where there's maybe more established, cult influence. So let's go ahead and get our random encounter. And once we got a random encounter, we can, beg for mercy, probably. All right, since we're on level 1 of the Acolyte's right there at the top, we might actually run into cultists randomly. And, I'm thinking as I say that out loud, I'm like, isn't that how pretty much all of my random things happen? All right, I got a 4 and a 6. So 4, 6 gives us traders. Huh. That's super weird. I'm gonna look to see if the entry has anything to make a little more sense of that, because it might be the case that the traders make some sense, but otherwise, I don't know. I find it hard to believe that these guys would just be fuddling around in here, but we can make that work. Let's see, so the entry says, first level fighters who live by trading in borderland areas, usually carry hand axes, swords, shields, fur, blah, blah, blah. Mules in the wilderness have 1d4 mules loaded with trade goods. Okay, here's an idea. We're gonna roll to see how many of these traders we get. 1d8. There's one trader. Okay, very well. All right, so here's my idea. Our trader here, I keep thinking I'm saying like traitor, like somebody who's, okay, so let's quickly roll for surprise. We'll do the party as the periwinkle one, and we'll do the enemy as this. Ready? The party is only surprised on a 1, and the enemy is surprised on a 1 through 3. Huh, so they're both surprised. Very well. So the party and the traitor come around the corner, they enter this room, and he's just in there. And they like bump into each other, and it's just, whoa, right? Now, I'm thinking to myself, the traitor makes sense, because originally this place was covered in orcs. But in the time that the party had killed the orcs and went back to the town of Charldross and rested and bought gear and all that stuff, it had been 4 days. So I'm thinking right now, maybe it's the case that since they've come back to this, this spot over here, maybe there is something to be said about how this guy had heard rumor that the orcs were gone and he moved in here for very similar reasons to the party. He's looking to see if there's anything to be gotten, any sort of treasure to be found, etc. So I'm thinking that once, there's the mutual surprise here, I'm imagining it'll probably just take place in this room. I'm not even going to roll for the encounter distance, but what I am going to do is I'm going to roll for reaction. It's going to be a +1 because the party have some super attractive people in it. Okay, so a 10. Interesting. So a 10 with this single traitor here. A 10 gives us indifferent or uninterested. So I'm imagining that they come around the corner and there's this gristly looking guy who's got, the beard, he's wearing the furs, like they said, he has a hand axe, and, he just looks like he's a tough guy, right? Maybe he's got a lantern and he's down here looking around to see if there's anything to scavenge and to sell. We had described in this room earlier, I believe, that there was like a small fire pit or something. So maybe he's thumbing around in there, looking around, and the party sneak up, and they're both surprised by each other. And he immediately turns around and he looks at them, and he, can tell that they're not immediately hostile. They can tell that he's not immediately hostile. So both parties just kind of stare at one another. And I'm imagining they ask, "What are you doing here?" And he says, "I should ask you the same question." And maybe it goes back and forth a little bit where the party come to understand he's just here looking for stuff, right? And I'm thinking that the party see this guy and they're probably thinking to themselves like, okay, well, maybe he's worth joining the party? Because I think to myself, I'm like, what's wrong with having a party member join here, especially if he's just here for loot and, strength in numbers and all that. We got uninterested. But I'm kind of wondering if maybe we can have the party sort of convene for a second and say, hey, you know what, maybe we do need one more person to join us. We'll give them a shot, see what happens, blah, 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 blah. And so maybe what we'll do is we'll send them an offer. We'll say, listen, if you join us here in this place, we're exploring, we're trying to get to the bottom of this, heard there's people missing, something funky's going on here. We'll give you an even cut of the loot if you join us. And he thinks about it for a second, and he says, okay. It says that it is a offer refused. So he looks to them, and he just kind of goes, yeah, right. And he turns away, and he starts looking through the garbage a little bit more. I'm imagining at this point, Todrick and Idalar roll their eyes, and, got one of those I told you so kind of moments. Now, the party, after having spent that time chatting with Bozo over here, they're gonna go ahead and we're gonna keep moving down the line. So I'm thinking what we can do is, the party left off in this room number 2. We're gonna go to room number 1. Since we're not moving cautiously, I'm not gonna count it. But there are 2 other doorways here that might be worth walking through. And I'm guessing that the traitor probably hasn't done anything of note in this dungeon yet, and he probably went immediately into there because the door was maybe already open. Maybe we didn't close it. But we have 2 other doorways to inspect. So let's, I guess, it doesn't really matter which one we do. Why don't we go to this southern passage? Okay, so now let's get out our handy dandy 5th edition dungeon guide here. And let's see, I believe last time we said a high number was a passage and a low number was a room. So, high number, so a low is a room. Okay, so now that we've got a room, we can do our chamber. Okay, so a chamber, we're gonna roll the d20, see what size we get. It's funny, I got this dice tower and I'm not even using it. Okay, 12, 12 gives us a rectangle, 30 by 40. Okay, I was about to write on my book with my dry erase marker. Okay, 30 feet by 40, so we'll do that. Whoop. Cool, and then this room will be number 7. I also recognize we never checked out this room over here, but I can live with that. It's kind of like in video games when you're like, like a Metroidvania kind of game, when you like check every single room except for the one room you didn't check, and that's the room that has the stairs down, that'll be out of luck. But anyway, okay, room number 7. So we got a few things to roll. So let's roll on a d6, maybe on a 1 and a d6, it'll be a strange door. Okay, I'll try that again. 2, okay, so no strange door. Okay, now we'll roll a d6 to see what kind of room it is. All right, oop, my goodness, it was a 1. It was a 1, I swear. Okay, so let's see what a 1 gives us. Okay, so I definitely didn't just make this right now, but this little visual will help us out a little bit so I don't have to keep flipping to my books here, but we got a 1, so this room will be a trap. There's a 25% chance of treasure, however, which is nice, but not great. So now that we've got that down pat, let's see what they've got, for example, traps. I'm gonna go ahead and roll percentile and we'll see what we got. Okay, 20, 29. 29 gives us an elevator to another level. Huh. But it's a trap. So I'm almost wondering if maybe what we can say is there is, I know it says elevator, but I almost wonder if it's like a chute that comes down. So there'll be like, maybe in like the corner of the room, there will be like a lowering passage here that just kind of like matched onto the wall. There's like a chute, like a duct that drops, right? Okay, and then maybe what we can say is because it leads down to that level, and maybe the people inside of here who travel around inside this dungeon, you know what I mean, like the cultists, maybe they've turned this trap into something of practical use. So I'm almost wondering if maybe there's like a little bit of like a table set up in this room or something, you know what I mean? Like there's like almost like a makeshift, like, a station here where people have been, you know what I mean? It's kind of like an intermediary point between this point and the rest of the dungeon. So a 3 means that no, we don't get treasure. A 1 on a d4 would have given us treasure in this room. So I'm guessing that this trapdoor is probably secretive, but everything else in here seems to be like, you know what I mean, set up as if there was like a drop-off point. So we'll do this as the trap door. So now that the party are in here, why don't we roll to see how many chamber exits we get. On a d20, the book says with a 15, there will be two chamber exits. Okay, so maybe we'll put, you know what, let's be cheeky. Let's put both of them on the same side. Yeah, that can't bite us in the butt. Okay, so now that the party walk in here and they see it, I'm imagining they're gonna take the time to scour the room and look around. But here is a good question. Will the party stumble into the trap? Now, if I remember correctly, there is a, let's double check the percent chance of triggering a trap. So it says there's a 2 in 6 chance when PCs make actions that would trigger it. So let's go ahead and roll a d6. Just because I imagine the party is going to be skulking around the room, peering everywhere just to see what's going on. Okay, 3. So nobody manages to trigger the trap. It lays there dormant. Nobody has any idea. None the wiser. Okay, so the party, having dealt with this, probably at this point think, let's keep moving, right? So of the 2 doors, maybe we'll do the top door. Okay, highs, passage, cool. Now we'll roll for our passage. The passage will roll our d20, got a 9. So a 9 is continue straight for 20 feet, side passage to the left, and then an additional 10 feet ahead. Okay, so let's see how this works out on our little mini map here. Oh, you know what? That actually works kind of good. We come up this way, and then the party's left would be, you know, I'm actually gonna DM Fiat. I'm just gonna go over this way. Say there's a passage that goes that way, and it'll continue like this. Cool. So the party walk into the passage, and they take their sweet time double checking and making sure there's nothing going on inside the passage. now that we've reached this fork in the road, we'll say, what's at the end of the passage? To the party's right, there will be a room. So I'll put in a door real quick. Okay, and then continuing straight forward, the passage continues. Okay, so let's see, passage type. 15 gives us a chamber. Oh, okay, cool. Very well. So now the party are at a crossroads, quite literally, and it's time for them to pick which way they would like to go. I'm thinking that they might want to just travel to the right here. And because we're getting in some kind of tight areas, I think we might have to be careful with how we're doing this. I'm gonna roll for the type of room. I got a 1, so it's another trap. Ugh, that's not good. All right, I'm gonna roll for the size. A 10 for a chamber gives us a rectangle that's 30 by 40. So that's just one of these. Cool. But it's trapped. Okay, is the door funky? I'm gonna roll a d6. You know what? Yeah, I'll roll a d6. On a 1 and 6, it's something funky. Okay, cool. So no funky door. But now we have a trap on this door, and I want to pray that we don't get any terrible traps. That little elevator wasn't too bad, but the other traps might be a lot worse. So let's cross our fingers and hope for something decent here. All right. We got a 64. 64 is poisoned caltrops. Ooh, yikes. All right, now since our party are being very careful and walking into this place and making sure that they're keeping their eyes peeled for anything and everything, I do think that we should, I think that the party might, you know what I mean? I'm gonna give them a chance to spot this, just like we would for anything else. So 48 for random dressing in here. We have a lot of dust. This room has got caltrops on the floor and dust. And a 58 gives us pallet. So wooden pallet. Interesting. And a badly dented helmet. So again, just a bunch of rubble and refuse in here. So 8 poison caltrops. I'm imagining that's going to be right in front of the door. So when the party's swinging open, it'll be right there in front of them. Yeah, let's also roll to see what we've got for chamber exits. A 19, holy moly, there are 4 chamber exits. Cool. You know what, maybe we'll put a secret door right here. I feel like that makes sense. There's a secret door to that room. And I'm wondering, you know what, maybe there's a secret door to this room too. Okay, and then we can have 2 doors on here. One right here and one right here. Cool. So the party are gonna have a chance of spotting it. I'm gonna roll and hope for the best. Let's see. So because Zion is a thief, she has a 15% chance at this level of finding and removing traps. So I'm thinking that what we'll do is I'm gonna roll this, but because they're caltrops on the floor and they're probably shining, maybe the dust is so thick that you can't really see them that well, I'm gonna boost it up to a 20% chance. I got 44, so she doesn't immediately spot them. Okay, and now I'm gonna roll a d6 to see if the party would notice anything on the floor. On a 1, then somebody in the party's gonna notice. Okay, now, tricky. I'm thinking now what we can do is as the party walk in, there will be a 2 in 6 chance of anybody walking through stepping on one, okay? All right, here we go. We'll start off with whoever's in front. I believe that was Tamond, so. Okay, Tamond is fine walking in. And next would be our 2 squishies. So we've got Zion and we've got Idalar. We'll do Idalar. So 2 and 6, so he sets it off. So he steps on the poison caltrop. Oh boy, this doesn't sound good. All right, so because I don't have any immediate rules for the caltrops, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rule that Stepping on one, especially because he's wearing like just regular leather boots, it'll probably go straight into his foot. And I'm gonna roll for the damage for that. I'm imagining it'll be a D3 of damage or a D4. You know what? I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is. I'm gonna say it's a D4. There's 2 points of damage, okay? And then we'll make a save versus poison. Now, here's my question. How deadly is this poison gonna be? I'm gonna roll a D20, and we're gonna see 20 being lethal, 1 being inconsequential. I got a 4, so that seems relatively inconsequential. So maybe this poison that's on there causes them to fall asleep, right? Right, that seems like a fair bit of nonsense, right? So we're gonna have Idalar walks in. First, Hammond walks in with the torch, or with the lantern rather, and as he walks in the room, stepping past the dusty pile of the caltrops, nobody can see them, and Idalar steps square onto one, like, you know, Home Alone style, and screams out an alarm, leaping up, grabbing onto his foot, and he starts to... Okay, let me re-roll that. 9. So our saves versus poison. So yeah, so he begins to look like he's feeling faint and woozy, and both of the other party members in the hallway stand back and just like wait at the doorway, while on the other side, Hammond catches him and guides him gently to the floor. I'm gonna go ahead and now roll a D4 to see if there's any treasure in the room. Nope, no treasure. So as the party take a better look at the ground, they can all see the caltrops pretty clearly. And so with that, the party all just kind of, you know, mention, they're like, all right, be careful, step past them. They probably sweep the floor with something else in order to get them out of the way. And the party all move into this room. Very good. Now, how long is he going to be unconscious for? You know, I mean, we got a 4, so maybe we'll do 1d3 hours. Cool. So 1 hour, he's going to be unconscious. So I'm thinking what the party will do is they'll come in here, they're going to secure the door, and they're going to look after him while he's unconscious and wait for him to come to. Probably thinking maybe this is only a, you know what I mean? Like maybe this is a short-term thing and hopefully he'll feel better. So what I'll say then is at the midpoint of this, when we roll into the next hour, we're going to have to roll for a random encounter. So I'm going to go ahead and roll. 6, so nothing comes by, the party just sitting there, and maybe what we'll do is we'll check the doors when we have the minute to, or I guess the hour to. Idalar comes to, and he's groggy, and he feels like he's probably got like the worst hangover he's ever had, and his boots already been bandaged up with some old cloth, and the party just look at him, hoping he's feeling all right. He stands up with a little bit of a limp, and seems to be relatively okay. So I think now what we'll do is we'll see if the other doors have anything funky going on, and I'm going to roll to see if anybody notices the secret doors. So Zion peeks around the corner, doesn't notice either of the secret doors. Now we'll check to see if these 2 doors are anything fancy. Nothing on that. And, ooh, fancy door. Okay, so one of these is a fancy door. All right, now that we have the official fancy door, TM, I'm going to see what kind of doors we've got. So let's see, door types. I'll roll a d20 and we'll see what we got on this table. 10 gives us a stuck door. Okay, so one of the doors is not going to budge. Very good. All right, so now that we've got this room all settled, the party see that Idalar's okay. They say, all right, are you good to keep moving? Idalar nods, and as he tries to put some pressure on his foot, he's able to wince through the pain and keep moving. Very well. So I guess now we have the question of which way would the party like to go? There's a part of me that thinks maybe we would just continue on this passage to see. Yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, any road's fine. So we'll do 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we'll do 1, 2, or 3 on a d6. 4. So we'll do the bottom door. The bottom door was not the stuck door. So we'll get moving in. Okay, so the party are good to go. Yeah, okay, cool. So let's roll to see what we got. High would be a passage, and low will be a room. So low is a room, so we're gonna have a room right here. Maybe this connects over to this passage. That'll be kind of nice. Now we'll roll for a d20 to see what this chamber... Well, actually, maybe... Yeah, we'll roll for the d20 for the size of the chamber. 15. 15 gives us a rectangle. 50 by 80. My goodness. So maybe what we'll do is we'll do this. 4, 4... Ooh. All right, since it's a large chamber, I'm gonna roll to see. 13 gives us 2 doorways here. And I'm thinking that 1 and 2, we're probably gonna add another 1 and 2. So I'm gonna just go ahead and add 1 right here, and then I'll add another 1 right here. Okay, now let's roll for what the room is. A 1, there's a trap. But you know, I just rolled that, but I kind of want to, because this is a larger room, I kind of want to roll for dungeon chambers. I kind of want to roll in this percentile to see if we get anything a little bit more, not flavorful, but like something that might be kind of sensible or something that adds a little something to the dungeon. Kind of like that banquet hall we had. So a 32 gives us a divination room. Ooh, and it's trapped too. So in a divination room, I'm imagining there's probably like a fire pit or something where ashes are drawn from, right? So I'm gonna put like a big pit over here, like an old fire pit, where they grab the ashes and they can do readings with the ashes. So I'll go ahead and put this as number 9. And it's trapped. Okay, let's see what we got for traps. 69. We're all going to be very mature. Nobody's going to make any jokes about 69. Because if we were going to make jokes about 69, I'm sure we'd have 420 different jokes to make. So 69 gives us quicksands. What the? There's quicksand in the room? Huh. That's very curious that the divination room would have quicksand. I don't know, maybe in the center of the room there is like a large pit, and that large pit has the quicksand in it. And maybe for some reason there's some, I really don't know why there would just be this big giant vat of quicksand in the middle of the room. But I'm imagining that the party can see very clearly that the quicksand is quicksand inside this strange pool and avoid it at all costs. And then they see this little fire chamber over here. And I don't know, I'm imagining the party inspect it for just a little bit, but not long enough to make anything important of this. So I think now the party have a couple of options of where to go. Maybe we'll go through this room and try to close this gap off. I'm gonna roll to see if it's a special door. Nope. And then we're gonna roll to see if it's a passage or a chamber. Highs for passage. Okay, so it's a chamber. And then we'll roll to see the size of the chamber. A 2. It's probably gonna be dinky. The official measure is 20 by 20. Huh, interesting. So it's actually just that big. Huh. All right, D6 to see what we got. 5. So that gives us an enemy. Now here's a, oh, actually, what am I doing here? My chances for treasure are up. D4 for, oh, there is treasure, and it's something to do with the quicksand. So I'm imagining that maybe the treasure, I'm gonna roll real quick for a general sense of value for treasure for a first level. And I don't imagine it's very much. So maybe what we'll do is I'll just really quickly roll for the treasure on this floor. Because we've got, just a little bit of mental math. Follow me on this. So there's a D6 of silver, so 300 silver, so that's 30 gold. 50% chance of gold pieces. I'll roll that for, why did I roll that? 50% chance. So 50 and below, 14, so there will be gold value. 1d6 times 10. Okay, so it's worth 50 gold right now. 5% chance of gems. 74, so no. 2% chance of jewelry, no. 2% chance of magic item, no. Okay, so I'm guessing what we'll say is that the chandelier inside this room. Maybe there's like a hanging kind of like chandelier or kind of crystal over the quicksand, and the party can see that it is worth, what did I say, 50 GP chandelier, and it's just hanging over the middle point. So maybe the party are actually maybe they're not safe right now. I'm imagining that Todrick's greed would probably push him to look and see if he could get up there and grab that shiny little trinket, right? So what I'll do first is I'll roll to see, again, because it's quicksand and it's probably very easy to see, I'll give it a 1 in 4 chance that Zion can see it right away. 2, so no. Now I'm gonna roll a 2 and 6 to see if anybody else can see. Nope. Okay, so in that case, our good pal is gonna go ahead and step right onto the quicksand. Todrick walks up and he puts his foot in to try to get a good reach, and he just immediately sinks a foot in. And as his foot goes sinking into that mess, he's gonna kind of gasp out in terror and try to pull his foot back. I'm gonna let him roll a strength check with a penalty to see if he's strong enough to just pull his boot out now that it's only just dabbling in, right? So Todrick's strength score is a 14, so I'm gonna give him a penalty of a 2. So he has to roll below a 12. 4. So he immediately pulls his foot clean out of the quicksand, and the rest of the party look at him in a level of surprise, but also like, why would you go do that? You know what I mean? Just disappointment, right? So now we know that there's a monster within room 10. So let's figure that out real quick, shall we? Random encounter. So still dungeon level 1. So we're gonna roll a d4 and a d10. We'll see what we get. d4, oops. So it's a 4-1. So 4-1 is a cobra. d6 cobras. Interesting. 5 cobras. Huh. Okay. So let's quickly check out our little cobra situation here. I can do the alphabet. So, it says snake cobra, but I get spitting cobras. So I'm guessing that the spitting cobras are what we're talking about? Yeah, okay. 3-foot-long snakes with gray-white scales prefer to attack from a distance with spit. Okay, and they have blinding spit. Ooh, cause death in 1d10 turns. Ooh. Oh, this is not good. But luckily for us, the party have yet to enter room 10. I know the party were probably thinking of going in there, so they're going to go up and check it. We rolled there's no secret special door, so the party go up to open up the door, and I think we should roll for our surprise. Oh, yeah, all my d6s are hiding over here. And, okay, so let's go ahead and roll our d6s. We'll do the party as the periwinkle, and the snakes as the dark one. Snakes will be surprised on a 1 and 3, and the party are only surprised on a 1. Cool, so the party are not surprised, where the snakes will be. So the party walk up to the door, and Tamond goes to open it, and he sees the tiniest little bit of like a snake's skin, like a shed skin just dangling under the door. And he slowly but gently picks it up off the floor, and he pulls it back and realizes the size of it is like 3 feet long, and he can see that the ribbing on the inside of it is probably enough that he can gauge like this thing is probably some sort of a cobra or something that's like mean with a certain kind of tapered tail or something like that. And when he sees that, he puts his ear to the door and he hears nothing. And I'm imagining at this point he's gonna push the door open ever so slightly, and he'll smell the room and probably smell the stink of like reptile feces or something like that. Something rank, and he's gonna just slowly close the door, and he's gonna tell the party, I think we've got a giant snake, maybe more than one. And now we have a 50% chance of getting some sort of treasure in this room, so I'm gonna roll. Evens will be treasure. So there's not even treasure in the room. The party are going to think about this and think, you know what, maybe it's not worth it dying to a bunch of stupid snakes. So they close the door. Okay, so excellent. The party avert danger in the form of yucky snakes. Okay, so now our party are at this kind of crossroady junction where, actually, yeah, I'll finish that off. So the party are going to take their turn here in the divination room and just hang out. But now that we've reached this turn, before the party move into their next turn of movement, we got to roll for a random encounter. A 1 is an encounter. 5. Nothing. I was almost looking for it, you know? Maybe that's problematic. Okay, so this in mind, the party now have a couple of options. The big door over here, that stuck door that they don't know is stuck. So let's go ahead and, you know what? Why don't we stick with this large door right here? Okay, so we'll do that. We'll see, is it a special door? 1 and 6? 1. Special door. Roll a d20. 9. It's a stuck door. I remember that from the table before. So, what kind of chamber do we have on the other side? Is it going to be a passage or is it a room? Highs or passages? So, chamber. Size of the chamber? 6. I didn't drop my pencil. You didn't hear that. A 4x4 square. So maybe we'll give this double doors and they'll be stuck. And then we'll do 4x4 square. Cool. This room looks to be potentially ominous. Now let's roll for the purpose of the room or the type of room. 6. A monster. Ooh. You know what? Maybe we'll give this room a special thing too. I'm thinking dungeon chamber. We'll roll a percentile, see what we get. 37. So a 37 gives us a gallery. Huh. I wonder if that's going to have anything to do with the kind of monster we get. So 11. We'll have the gallery. And I'm thinking the gallery will probably be, I don't know. What kind of gallery are we talking about? Well, maybe it'll depend on the kind of monster we get. Why don't we roll that and we'll see if we got any fancy leads. 4 and a 10 gives us a 1-2. The old 1-2, and we'll see and hope that we get something easy peasy. All right, a 1-2 gives us fire beetles. Huh. You know what? Maybe the fire beetles had something to do with this chamber over here with this, but the fact that the door's stuck is confusing to me. Whatever, D&D. I don't need to have a lot of logic. But in this room, the gallery, maybe because they're fire beetles, I think anything that would have been in here would have probably turned to ash. So I'm going to put in a couple of statues in here, a couple of fancy looking statue boys, who at this point are probably pretty well forgotten to time, and I don't imagine that anybody recognizes, you know, who they are or anything like that. But the fire beetles, this room, it says we have a potential for a D8 of fire beetles. Let's roll low. 8. 8 fire beetles. My goodness. All right, let's see what our fire beetles are up to. Let's see how they do. Okay, fire beetles, 2.5 feet long, commonly found underground. Glowing nodules. 3 glowing glands, 2 above the eyes and 1 above the abdomen. Cast light in a 10-foot radius. If removed, they keep glowing for 1d6 days. Interesting. Now, their alignment is neutral, because obviously they're bugs, and they have a pretty nasty bite. But overall, they don't seem like they're probably going to be, you know, evil or anything like that. And these are just some glow bugs, right? Some fireflies. So, cool. I'm imagining now the party are going to go up to the door and try listening. So, hear noise is a 1 and 2. Oh, good. Excellent. Zion carries her weight. She puts her ear to the door. I'm going to try my best not to make a reference to Jukebox Hero. Got 8 fire beetles. Cool. And when she puts her ear to the door, she can hear the chittering of little feet just like walking around. I mean, these things are 2.5 feet long, so they're like dachshunds walking around in there, 8 of them, and they're all just glowing. I imagine at this point she can probably even see under the door that there's like the random glowing light that appears, and she's probably very confused. But again, Tammond, being the guy that he is, can probably identify that these are fire beetles, and once he realizes what they are, he probably considers they're likely not going to be hostile unless, you know, given a good reason. So he probably suggests, go ahead, open up the door. She inspects the door and she sees that it's stuck. So at this point they turn to Todrick and say, can you pull the door open? Todrick, with his strength of a 14, can open stuck doors on a 3 and 6 chance. Cool. So with a 3 and 6, let's hope for the best. Come on, Todd. So 3 and 6, he tries pulling at it, and in that time, he gets nothing. He makes a lot of alarm, and the bugs on the other side very clearly know that he's there. He is going to try again. Cool. So on the second try, he pulls at it, and the door swings open. Now, let's roll for a reaction, because I'm sure this probably startled the bugs a bit. I'm going to say that because of the fact that he was pulling the door and rattling it and everything, it probably startled the bugs a bit. So I'm going to give them a -1, but because of their charisma, they would have a +1, so we'll roll a natural on this reaction. 7. So the bugs are uneasy, but neutral. Now, here's my question. Is there treasure in the room? Evens is treasure. Oh, nice. Okay, so there's treasure in the room. Makes sense with the gallery. Now, roll for the reaction again as the party stand there. Tammond's probably going to walk to the front and hold his hands out, and he's going to just get low and move very gently to inspect the room. And with a 7 again on neutral, the bugs don't seem to really have much of an opinion, and it's kind of a standoff. So Tammond just looks around the room, and he can see that there is something of value. What it is, I don't really know right now, but he's going to say that they see that there's something of value, and he's going to look at the bugs and see if he can just kind of skitter by them. I'm imagining at this point he's probably going to try to pull out some food from his bag, and you know what? Here's what they're going to do. Why don't we say that there's a chance that some of those vines have fruit somewhere in one of the adjoining rooms. I think Tammond is going to say, go get some of that fruit, and they're going to go explore. So I'm going to give every room a 1 in 4 chance of having some of that fruit, the red, yucky, wet fruit there. So room 9, 1 in 4. Oops, that's a 4. We'll say room number 8, 2, so no. And then room 7, 4, room 1. Well, we said that there were some of the fruit in room 1. So maybe what we'll say is we'll take the time to wander 1, 2, 3, 4 rooms back. And I imagine that'll take us the full 10 minutes. They pluck some of the fruit off of the vine all the way back there, and they bring it all the way back to this room. And that'll take, I'm guessing, we'll take the extra time penalty on this one. And he has the fruit, and he throws it into the room with the fire beetles so that they can start chewing on it and see maybe if they're hungry. Apparently, there's not much of the fruit to be found here, so... Okay, so 7, and I'll give the little bonus of a +1 because they offered it food. Them, all 8 of them. How dangerous that is. And so with an 8 on our roll, 8 unfortunately is another neutral. So we'll let them continue eating and see if there's a reaction to this. 8 becomes 9 because the +1, because they're subdued, so they're uninterested in the party. So the party now have time to walk in and grab some of that sweet, sweet treasure. Let's go ahead and roll on our treasure table real quick and see what kind of goodies we might get. So, in the book, there is a section here where it talks about treasure by the level of the dungeon. So right now we're still level 1 in the dungeon. So we're gonna go ahead and roll to see what we got. So first will be a d6 of silver pieces. So that is 600 silver. Whew. Nice. Okay, and now there's a 50% chance of gold. So let's roll for that real quick. We'll do 50 and lower. We got 51. That's so rude. Okay, so no gold, and now we'll roll for gems, 5% chance. 16, so no. 2% chance of jewelry. Whoop. 99. If we were rolling up, we would have got that. That would have been sweet. Now magic items, 2% chance. 93. So nope, all we found was 600 silver pieces. Okay, so I'm thinking 600 silver pieces. If we were to translate that into something of value, a bit of treasure, it's 60 gold. So maybe it's like a portion of a piece of a statue, like a really well sculpted marble hand. And that itself is enough to fetch 60 GP for the party. So I'll even put it right here, just in the pile of things that we've dealt with. So 60 GP sculpt hand. Cool. Excellent. So the party take the hand and they bring it on out of there. So inside this chamber, the chance of having other doors, we have 20. 15 gives us, there are 2 extra doors. So maybe what we'll do is we'll say the gallery has a door to both this section right here and this section right here. Excellent. So let's keep moving. The party now have a chance to go, why don't we go? Yeah, we'll go north. So we'll roll passage high. Nope, so it's a chamber, and the chamber size is a 3. 3 gives us a 30 by 30 room. Okay, now the door, is it special? 1 and 6? Nope. The chamber, what do we got inside? A 2. 2 gives us empty with a 15% chance of treasure. So let's roll for our treasure. 15%, we got a 24, so no treasure. That's okay. Okay, so the room's pretty well barren and empty, and then we'll roll super quick, see if there's anything cool in this room of note. Probably not, but let's see. We got a 13. 13 gives us a bucket, and 74 gives us a screen. So, empty room. So now that we got our little empty room, we'll roll to see if there's any ways in or out. An 11 states that we have 1 doorway, and I think the doorway will lead this way. Cool. So the party walk in, they inspect the room, nothing fancy, nothing of note. The party are gonna keep on trucking. So, D6 for the next room. We'll say highs is passage, lows is room. It's a passage, cool. For some reason, I'm actually very excited whenever we get a passage. So D20, 14 gives us a 20-foot. Oh, whoops, yeah, wrong one. 14 gives us continue straight 20 feet, and then it turns to the right and continues for 10. Okay, so forward 20 and then turn for 10. Cool. Excellent. All right, so the party wander out there. And again, we're gonna go ahead and do our movement speed out, so we're good on that. Now we'll roll to see, is there a passage? It ends in a chamber. Okay, so let's see the size of the chamber. 13. 13 gives us a rectangle that's 40 by 50. I'm thinking we could do... Cool. Look at that. I like that the dungeon is slowly starting to take shape here. Okay, so now we'll roll. It's a larger room, so I'm going to go ahead and roll for potential dungeon chamber. See if we get anything of note, anything cool. We got a 20, so a 20 would give us a cistern. Well, that's interesting, especially because we got the magic well right there. Okay. Very good. Now let's roll if there's anything in here. A D6. Let's see. Room, we get empty. Exciting. Sorry, sarcasm. 15% chance of treasure. 18, we're so close. Okay, and then number of doors. 15 gives us 2 extra doors. So I'd imagine we get the 1 door right here, and then maybe we get another door up top. Okay. So we've got our cistern room. We'll give it a nice big old well in the center. We'll make it a big oblong kind of deal. And then we'll say 13 is the cistern. Cool. So now that we've got that, and we know the room's empty, nothing going on in here, we'll take the extra 10 to inspect. The party will probably drink from the water, and it'll be cool and refreshing. The party are going to take an extra turn to rest in this chamber. And now, as we move into the 4th hour, the party are going to roll for a random encounter. A 1 on a d6. Ooh! Again, I'm not looking forward to these, but I am secretly, don't tell anybody, but I am secretly looking forward to them. So let's go ahead and let's roll for our random encounter. Additionally, because we're entering the 4th hour, we're going to have to use 2 things of oil, which, you know, fine, whatever. I'm definitely going to remember that because everybody loves bookkeeping. So a 4 and a 10, we'll see what we get. 0 and 2. So 2-0 gives us mutant frogs. Ugh. Whoa. Oh. What? Oh my god. Okay. It said frog, mutant comma frog, so I'm hoping... Yeah, okay, good. Okay. So mutant frogs. You know, I'm imagining that one of the doorways that the party had gone through was maybe not entirely closed. So we'll see what's going on here. Maybe... Okay, it says, giant 2-foot-long mutant frogs with vicious talons and teeth. Highly aggressive, voraciously carnivorous, will eat even their own kind. Dwell underground or in forlorn swamps. 3d6 of them. My goodness, this is rough. And we have 9 of them in total. Oh boy. Okay, so I'm imagining we're going to hit this random encounter whichever direction we're headed in. So let's go ahead and, again, we're going to use the 2 oils. And then we're going to, I don't know, I guess the party are maybe going to move. Will they go up, north, or they go through that stuck door? I'm going to say they'll go north. So, is it a special door? No. Is it a passage? No. So it's a chamber, d20 for the chamber, and 8. Okay, 8 for a chamber is a 20 by 30 rectangle. Type of the room is a trapped room. Yeah, I'd say so. It's got giant frickin' frogs in it. But apart from the giant frickin' frogs, we have our 20 by 30, so we'll do it like this. And then, oops. I kind of drew that wrong. So I'm imagining 20 by 30 rectangular room. Okay, then we'll roll our d20. We got 12 for the number of exits, so there will be 2 exits. So we'll put, we'll do one right here, and we'll do another one right here. And the room is trapped. So I'm thinking, oh boy, this room is intense. I'm thinking that as the party are headed into this room, there's a chance that those giant mutant frogs are coming up behind them, or maybe they're traveling through this room. But because it's trapped, with an 8, it's a blade trap. So maybe there's a blade that's, I don't know, it's in the room. So maybe the blade trap is protecting the cistern door. So as the party are going to go through the through that doorway there's a chance that that's going to get set off. Now let's roll real quick for a surprise, right? I want to make sure we're being totally kosher here. So we've got surprise. The party will be this die, that periwinkle, and then the frogs will be this one. So frogs are surprised on 1 through 3. Party is surprised only on 1. Okay, so the frogs are surprised, but the party is not. So as the party go to open up the door here, they probably hear the telltale. Again, Hammond is just catching all this stuff. So as he goes to open up the door, he can hear on the other side very loud and clear just the sound of the frogs just like squeaking and belching, probably engaged in some sort of mating thing. Close to the cistern, I imagine it's humid in this room, and I imagine it's like kind of the right sort of, how do I say this? The right characteristics for a chamber where maybe the frogs could lay their eggs on the walls or something like that, especially because all the vines and stuff, right? I'm even gonna roll D4, 2, so, okay, so no fruit on this one, but I'll say it's empty, and then there's the blade trap. So as the party can hear them very clearly, on the other side they can hear all those frogs burping and belching, the random encounter coming through here. The party, at this point, probably don't feel the need to deal with it, and maybe even want to protect them. Well, I mean, I guess it's giant mutant frogs, so they're probably expecting that this is the kind of thing that the frogs wouldn't be able to open up the door, because they're not, like, intelligent or anything. So I'm imagining the party are just gonna step away slowly from that door, and they're gonna go ahead and instead, I guess we gotta do a lot of backtracking now, huh? I guess we could go to the cistern room, side passage, this empty room, the gallery, and back down into that chamber. So, okay. So we'll go ahead and use another turn. And as the party make it back to this chamber, I'm gonna say there's a 50% chance that the bugs have finished eating their food. High, yeah, evens they finished. So odds they're not done eating. So the party will go back in and they're unbothered by these little critters. Cool. So the party go up to this door and we're gonna roll for it. Let's see, is it chamber or passage? Passage high. Nope, it's a chamber. Okay. Roll a d20. 19, that's gonna be a huge one. Octagonal. 60 by 60. Holy smokes. Holy good lord. 60 by 60. I'm kind of at a loss for how to even draw that. Well, I guess if it's octagonal by 60 across, it's still gonna just be like, yeah, we'll do roughly octagonal. Cool. Yeah, that's roughly octagonal. Now, we definitely need to check to see what the type of room this is. So we'll roll percentile and see what we get. 56. So 56 for dungeon chamber would be a library. Intriguing. Okay, now let's see what's currently in here. 5 monsters. Cool. Very well. Now again, what kind of critters would be inside this library? That's a good question. But first and foremost, let's roll for, well, let's do the number of exits. I'm gonna roll a d20. 5. 5 gives us 1 exit, so I'll put it right over here. Okay, now let's see, is the door magic or fancy on a 1? Nope. Okay, now we'll roll for, I guess the kind of monster, right? Yeah, because we're dealing with our library now. It's okay, I dropped my emergency bookmark that's actually just a coin. All right, so encounter tables, we'll do our 4 and 10. Okay, we got a 3-7. 3-7 are robber flies. And a D3 of them at that. 1 single robber fly in this room. Interesting. Okay. I mean, listen, I'm not in the business of trying to turn down an opportunity to get an easy encounter out of the way. So let's see. Robber fly, 3-foot long carnivorous flies with yellow and black stripes. They look similar to killer bees, which they actually hunt. May attack humans. So a surprise. They hunt patiently. They surprise on a 1 through 4 when waiting in shadows for prey. So I'm imagining this one has just been slurping up a bunch of these little critters in here, so it's going to be waiting. So, Since it's in waiting, I don't think the party are going to be able to hear anything at the door, so we're going to roll for the chance of hearing noises. Oops. 5. So, unfortunately, we hear nothing. Okay, so let's, yeah. Okay, cool. So the party now open up the door and head inside. The party can see before them this large octagonal room, which I'm guessing the walls are going to be adorned with bookshelves. In this strange octagonal chamber. And I'm guessing that there probably would be some furniture inside the room for reading. Not that you read furniture, but yeah, I think you get what I mean. And so as the party walk in, the robber fly is probably sitting up on top of one of the bookshelves and peering down at them. So the party, being so well illuminated and this robber fly just kind of hanging out, I'm imagining that the party are not going to be immediately noted. Well, let's roll for it. So party surprise on a 1 through 3, they will be surprised on a 1 through 4. So both of them are surprised as the door opens up. Neither of them expect each other at all until we're in the room. And the fly is probably going to spring. Well, it says that they may attack humans. So let's roll for reaction. I'm going to roll it natural because it's probably hungry. 5. 5, if I remember correctly, is not great. Unfriendly, may attack. So, you know what I'm thinking about it? I'm thinking that the party will probably be attacked. I'm guessing that because both Todrick and Idalar are wounded, this thing will probably pick up on that and smell the blood in the air and be ready to and just fly on down, puncture them, and start. Yeah, that's not great. Okay, so both parties are not surprised, so let's jump into this, shall we? So the party are going to waltz in, and as they come in, they'll probably be in the middle of the room looking around when this thing attacks. So I guess the party, when they notice it, are going to immediately jump into defensive position, prepare to attack. But because it's flying, I'm imagining... I bet they see it up on top of the bookshelf, so they're probably going to have plans to attack it with ranged attacks. So Todrick having, let's see, what do we have for ranged attacks for the full party? Idalar already spent one of his spells, so we still have Chromatic Orb, but I don't think he's going to use that here. I think he's probably just going to duck and cover. Maybe he's going to throw a dagger. Yeah, he has a dagger. We'll throw a dagger. Zion is going to shoot her short bow. Tamond is going to throw a javelin. And Todrick is going to chuck a spear. I feel like they're probably all pretty well aware that this little critter is going to be real awful, so let's jump into it. Okay, so initiative, party will be Periwinkle, and the enemy will be the Dark Die. So the bug goes first. Now, who's he going to attack? I think it's probably going to be either Todrick or Idalar, so I'm going to go ahead and roll evens for Idalar. Okay, so it's going straight for our illusionist, and it just plunges across the room. Just to make sure we got our stats for the robber fly. The critter moves very fast, and the bite is a D8, Thaco 18, so it has a +1 on the attack. That's not good. Idalar has an armor class of 7, so it's going to hit on an 11 or better. Whew, that is not good. 12. So it flings across the room and it chomps him. Oh boy. So he's got 4 HP left and this thing does a D8 of damage. Let's hope and pray for Idalar. 6. Oh boy. So that is no good. So, unfortunately, the robber fly shoots across the room, stabs into his chest, and Idalar, probably like holding his hands up, just gagging as this thing stabs into him and immediately begins slurping at his insides. The party, which now seeing this in horror, begin their ranged attacks at the robber fly, which just landed on and attacked him. We're going to start off with a ranged attack from Zion. She got an 11, armor class of the fly is a 6, so she attacks with +1, her Thaco is 19, so she needed to roll a 12 or higher, so she misses. Oh, +1 because we're in close range. Okay, don't want to forget that. And a D6, it has 9 HP. Wow. 5 points though. Cool, so she thoroughly wounds this thing. And at this point, Tamond is going to chuck one of his javelins. Again, because they're in close range, he's going to get the +1. So 15 is a hit, and he deals a D4 with the javelin. So he's going to chuck that. Only 1 point. Okay, so 6 total damage on this thing. It has 3 health left as written, and last we have Todrick. Todrick's gonna chuck a spear at point blank range. He got a crit, look at that. A little revenge. So he picks it up, throws it, and we're gonna do d6 times 2. 4 points of damage. So this, the robber fly is torn off of Idalar's chest and lands to the ground, twitching and making an ugly little whining, buzzing noise. So as it lays there on the floor, twitching and dying, Idalar collapses on the floor in a heap, just gasping and sort of holding his hands up, hoping for something to help him. Unfortunately, he is very dead. So, you know, that hurts. That sucks. You know, maybe there's a chance that the robber fly had some kind of decent treasure or something in the room. We got, I guess, 20 XP for killing the robber fly, but, you know. And it says he's treasure type U, so maybe we'll get something decent out of his random treasure, but I kind of really don't expect we're going to get anything too special. Treasure type U. Oh, so if there's a group of them, but, you know, we're not dealing with a layer. Okay, but now let's roll to see if we can get treasure at least for the room. Being that it's a monster room, there's a 50% chance. Where's that stupid thing? 50% chance because there's a monster in here. So let's see. Oh, you know, it kind of helps. Evens, there's treasure. Odds, there's not. Cool. Very good. All right, so now let's see if we can't find some treasure in this library. I'm going to go back to the beginning where we have our little treasure table. This is me hoping we get good treasure in order to justify losing one of our 4 party members. Okay, so we got a d6 of silver, 500 silver. Okay, I got a good feeling about this. We have a 50% chance of having gold pieces, so I'm going to roll 50 or below. 93, so no gold. We're going to roll for gems, 5% chance. 78, so no, nothing. 2% chance of jewelry. 95, no. 2% chance of a magic item. 72, so no. 500 silver pieces. All right, so again, we'll translate it over to 50 gold. So 50 gold we'll consider of books. Probably some gold-bound, fancy-looking books that they see inside this room while they're recovering and looking over the dead body of their companion. I'm imagining at this point, the party are feeling pretty low about this whole adventure, and they're probably thinking that maybe it's time they hurry back to the surface and they look for, we potentially have to go find some new hires to join us. So 15, so the party are gonna travel out of here. I'm imagining we're gonna take Idalar with us. We're gonna drag him back. But I don't know, would they drag him back? Shoot, yeah, they will. So we'll drag him, we're gonna move at half speed because of it. So we're gonna move, we're gonna take another one because we took the time in battle, another one to recover, and now we're traveling back. So I'm gonna say every 2 rooms is 1 turn. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's a chance at the very end of another random encounter. 1 and 6, a 1. Oh boy. So as we get to the final area here, the entryway, let's see what we've got going on for our little random encounter, shall we? All right, 10 and 4, 2, 7. Did we get a 2, 7 before? That sounds very familiar. A 2, 7 gives us 2, 7 gives us a homunculus. Intriguing. A homunculus is a miniature 18-inch tall, scaly-skinned humanoid with bat-like wings and fangs, created by a powerful magic user. I'm thinking this probably belongs to the big bad monster at the bottom, you know? Our spooky centipede minotaur thing. So I'm imagining this thing will be up here, and it's going to be sneaking around. It has a telepathic link, so the creator can telepathically control the homunculus and can see and hear through its eyes and ears. Control range 480 feet. Will never deliberately move that further away from the creator. So I'm imagining straight down. This thing is 480 feet away, no problem. And then upon death, the creator will suffer 2d10 damage. So. Okay, so I'm imagining this thing's not here to hurt anybody, but it's probably instead here just to, you know, get an idea of what's going on. So let's see if the party notice it or if it notices us. So we surprise on a 1 on a d6, and they'll be surprised on a 1 and 3. Oof, not my periwinkle die. Okay, so we're not surprised, but the little critter is. So I'm imagining the little critters in here looking over the goblin corpses, and the party peek in, dragging Idalar behind them. And as they see the little creature on the floor, the little creature screeches and runs through the open doorway and off into the dark. The party look at one another, Zion, Tamond, and Todrick, and they all kind of look up and realize as they look back down at Idalar that it is so not worth it to be messing with whatever that creature was. So they all just look back up at each other, and they shake their heads and drag him to the stairs instead. Now they drag him all the way up, and again, we're going to be traveling all the way back. So moving through the citadel, the upstairs of the citadel, it's probably still vacant, I'm imagining. I'm actually going to give it a 50% chance that that weird trader guy has set up a small camp up there. Evens for a camp. So nope, he didn't set up a camp. So good luck to him, wherever the heck he ended up. So the party manage out of there, they get up to the top, and I'm imagining what they're going to do is they're going to leave his body by the citadel. They're going to travel back into town, grab a shovel or two, and bring it back out there. And they're going to try and, well, bury their friend. So I'm going to go ahead and erase all of this, as we're going to go back into town. We're going to say, did the party get noticed for being bloody and potentially having treasure with them? Using our little yes-no table, which I definitely have on hand. Da-da-da-da. So do they get noticed? No, but. So no, they don't get noticed by the guards, but they probably are noticed when they get back to the tavern. I'm sure the people in the tavern realize that they're not there with Idalar anymore. They then ask Mina if they can borrow some shovels. She obliges, and they go back out there, and into the evening they're digging up the hole behind the citadel where they bury their, well, their friend Idalar. That's so sad. So Idalar is buried, and they grab his gear off of his body, leave a nice stone in place, and they say some final words. Todrick, being the grumpy guy that he is, probably just kind of shrugs his shoulders and assumes, you know, whatever, this is what happens. But I imagine Tamond and Zion feel pretty guilty, thinking that any of them could have been attacked by that creepy fly, and they maybe shed a tear or something, you know what I mean? It's probably very sad to have to witness that sort of thing. But at this point, the party are going to head back in to Charldross, and they're going to take some time to get some much needed rest. Okay, meet me back over at the big camera. Okay. So that was rough. But all things considered, not the worst, right? This could have been so much worse for us, but overall, losing Idalar, losing any party member is going to be a real hard time. But luckily, the party are amongst friends here at the Oiled Cauldron. Mina is a good pal of theirs, and the party did have some XP to bring back. Not a ton, but, you know, something. Luckily, Zion is going to get to level up because she survived and got at least 1 XP, so that's good. We got some leads on the dungeon in our first delve into it. We met some interesting characters, and overall, our dungeon is kind of come together into an interesting little setup here. I particularly liked having the galleries with the statues, the cisterns, those freaky mutant frogs, the library. So it's interesting to see what's going to happen next, but I do think we need to hopefully find a ladder downwards at some point, or maybe we're going to have to I don't know. I don't know how we're going to deal with it, but random dice will do what random dice do. So, in the end, next episode, we're going to get to go over some of the XP we got, and we're going to potentially hire on some new compadres. So, I hope to see you there soon. Thanks for watching. Again, the people who have been commenting on these videos, I love you guys. You're awesome. I've been doing a few more YouTube shorts, which I don't know if you guys seen that, but, you know, it's been fun. I'm trying to branch out and do as much of like the general anything YouTube-y just to see what catches, see what people like, and you know, trying to make sure I'm always doing the honest and authentic version of myself while I'm out there. I might do a video up soon, sort of a video essay, which maybe not essay, but you know, one of those videos. So stay tuned for that. It's about session 1, not session 0, but like your first quest with your group. And yeah, so thanks everybody for watching. Thanks everybody for commenting. I'm actually going to throw a couple of cool comments up here. Maybe even 3. I don't know. Maybe. And thanks guys for listening, for watching and everything, commenting. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.